glasses off to see the
Hey,
computer.
welcome. It's Captain Matt, Boater Secret Weapon. I want to thank you for joining us for this Sunday night live. We're getting ready to start here in just a couple of minutes here. We'll start about 8:30, but I wanted to welcome you. If you've never been to a live, here's what you can expect. Just go ahead and chat in your comment section, whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on YouTube. Just ask your question, leave your comment there, and then as we go through the time, I just kind of scroll down all the comments and I try to answer them. Now, if it's something that I need to ask you a question, I may ask you a question and just put it in the chat again, and I'll come back and I'll get that information so I can give you a more personalized response, something that's going to really add value for you. This is just something I do. One, it's great fun. I really enjoy it. It's helpful for the community, just sharing my knowledge. Now, one thing that you need to know, I don't know everything about boats. I know a lot about boats. I've been a boater since I was 5. I've sold boats. It's something that is a big part of my life. With that said, I don't know everything. Matter of fact, sailboats, have zero experience with sailboats. Bass boats, very little experience there. Bow riders, deck boats, center consoles, jet boats, twin engines, stern drives, outboards, inboards, all of that I have experience with. And if I have an answer, I'll give you my best answer. If I don't have an answer, I'll try to give you a resource that will be valuable for you. If I have an opinion, I'll try to give you that opinion, but let you know this is what I think, not what I absolutely know. So I look forward to it. Here's a little video intro that a subscriber made for me. Thanks, Bo. And we'll see you on the live when it kicks off here in just a moment. Welcome everybody to our Sunday night live. I am Captain Matt, and we're here with a special guest, another YouTuber that has a great channel here in the boating world, Wayne the Boat Guy. So you probably are subscribed to his channel as well as this one, and he is up in the Chesapeake Bay area. So I thought it'd be kind of cool to invite him on. He has been active in the comments. I like his content. I've watched a bunch of his videos. Matter of fact, was watching one of his latest one, which is really good. The best way to tie off in a boat slip when he jumped on. So I was enjoying that as well. So welcome, Wayne.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks for having me. I've been looking forward to doing this.
Yeah, so this should be pretty cool. If you were on, I skipped last week because I was on vacation and I was on the boat at 8:30 last week. Matter of fact, I was on the boat till about 11 o'clock that night.
Nice.
Because the restaurants got a little late and we had a nice evening cruise back. But so Wayne is, like I said, up in Chesapeake. And let's see if we can do this here. I just had the map. There is the map that where he is. So Wayne, tell everybody a little bit about yourself. Let me know in the comments if you have watched Wayne's videos, if you subscribe to his channel. I know several of you do. Welcome R&R, welcome Brian, welcome Ray, Boater Tom, and tell everybody a little about yourself and your boating history.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'm in the Chesapeake area, and I actually got my very first boat a little over 4 years ago. And believe it or not, I've always lived really near the water, but living just 10 minutes, 15 minutes from the water in an area like this, there's a lot of times where none of my friends had a boat. I had one friend one time when I was a teenager who had a boat, and I went out on his boat one time, never had a boat. We moved to be really close to the water. We're a block and a half from our marina. And when we moved here, looked around and everybody had a boat, and there literally was a marina a block and a half away. And my wife said to me, she said, I think we should get a boat. And of course, when your wife says, I think we should get a boat, it just takes a moment before you're scrolling through your phone.
You're talking hours before you're shopping. Yes. Minutes, maybe.
Yeah. And then basically, and we knew nothing. And literally when I bought my first boat, which we paid like $1,500 for, it was a 19-foot with an old, it was a 70s. Yeah, there it is. There's my first boat. That's me with my first boat. That's it. Yep. Very similar to that, actually. It was a 1975 or 6 Rankin 19-foot boat. and it had an old Evinrude two-stroke outboard on there, and 90 horsepower from the 80s. And the guy had taken really good care of it, and we literally we put it in the water a couple of days later. And honest to God, because in Maryland, I'm old enough that I didn't need to get a license. I didn't need to become certified and do all of the things that you should do before you go out in the water. I was exempt from that. And my daughter and I go out the creek, and there's the green marker and the red marker. And I said, I was hoping to see another boat so I could follow that boat to know what to do.
Yeah.
And my luck has always been that there's not a soul around whenever I go to do something like that. And I was like looking for help. And I said to my daughter, I said, can you look up on your phone whether I'm supposed to go between the green and the red markers, or, whatever. And by the time she looked it up, I had already gone outside of the marker. And luckily I didn't run the boat aground. And because I went outside of the red marker, or outside of the green marker, I think. And because I thought maybe you weren't supposed to go between them. And that's when I was like, there's a lot I got to learn here. And
Yep.
That's kind of where it started. And so
Well, I
what did
love
was
the
as I
fact,
was
and
learning things.
I love the fact, and I talk about this in a lot of my channels, or a lot of my lives, is that talking to somebody that's new to the experience, sometimes their take on it and the questions they ask are more valuable than somebody that's been around boats for 40 years, because we don't even think about, that's the type of questions that a brand new boater really does have. And I love the fact that you've been sharing your knowledge as you've learned it. And it's one of the things why I invited you on, is just, I liked your take, and I like the fact that you're like, I don't know everything. Matter of fact, I'm just learning it along with you. Let's do it together.
Yeah. And and that's kind of where I started with the YouTube videos too, because I was looking certain things up, and there were some things I could find, and you and I kind of got started around the same time, I think, with doing YouTube stuff.
Yep.
And there was certain content I could find and certain content I couldn't find. And as I was figuring some things out, I was like, I'm going to make a video about this to help somebody else. And quite literally, like an hour ago, I literally got a comment on one of my early videos from somebody who was a new boater. And they were like, hey, thank you so much for that tip, because it really saved me today. And that's awesome. And that's why we both do this.
Yep. And it's that attitude of not intimidating, just here to help. Don't know it all, but just want to help you out, because I've gone around the buoys when I should have gone, red right return, like the shirt on your channel.
Yeah.
So all right, we got our first question coming in here, Wayne. So we'll keep going with that. But R&R, Brian's up in West Virginia. On a pontoon up there, R&R Adventures. You joined me on the a lot of the Ozark live, so I appreciate those comments. But we got let's see, Cherie Barnhorn Gravely says, I've driven lots of boats, but this is the first time I'm buying one. We have a second home in Michigan. Boat will get minimal usage, 20 days a year. Looking at a brand I don't know a lot about. Tritune Bentley 223 Swingback 150 Merc 4-stroke. Can't find much about Bentley. No, it's a value brand. Okay, so Bentleys are actually built an hour away from me. Wow. And Cherie, I'm gonna hide your question so that we can see. But so couple of things. Oh, and the other thing that she says is the risk of buying a new boat from a marina in another state. All right, so we're gonna go 2 questions. The first one, I'm going to talk about buying from out of state. As a first-time boat owner, I would say the value of working with the local dealer, and when I say local, I'm talking local to your second home in Michigan, is going to be incredibly valuable, because you're going to be wherever your first home is. And I know this because my family has a place in Lake of the Ozarks in Missouri. They live in Nebraska. I live in the Carolinas. My in-laws have a place in Tennessee. They live in West Virginia. We still live in the Carolinas, 4 hours, 6 to 7 hours away. Having a dealer that you can call and say, hey, get my boat de-winterized, get it ready for the summer, or get it winterized, or, hey, I need somebody to check on this warranty item, and you're 100, 200, 500 miles away, having a local dealer that can get to your boat on your lift, on your trailer, wherever it's at the marina, I think is incredibly valuable, especially as a first-time boat owner. So that's the first thing. Wait, you do some of the work yourself, right, on your boats?
I've done everything. Yeah.
Okay. So I think that's the first thing on buying a boat from a marina in another state. Even if it's the state that you live in, I would encourage you to find a dealer that you have a good relationship with. I've got the video that I was looking for here. It's called Questions to Ask to Find a. Oh, there we go. All right. So let's see if I can. I got a lot of screens going up here. When we have a guest, I really got to do some add to this. Okay, so this video right here. Where did it go? Okay, choose the best boat dealer. So that video is one, Cherie, that I would encourage you to check out. It'll help you find a good dealer in Michigan. I think that's the place where you would be better off finding the good dealer. As far as Bentley goes, Bentley is a value brand, but I've also met the new owners of Bentley that bought it 4 years ago. I was introduced to them at the Charlotte Boat Show from a rep that I knew that was at Suzuki. And he said, here, let me introduce you to, I forget his name. I've got his card in my stack here, but young kid. His father started an RV company in Indiana. They bought Bentley, which was a very poorly run, in my opinion. This is my total opinion. Poorly run company, poorly built boats, poor customer service, and not a brand I would recommend. Now, this new company, they still aren't building top of the line boats, but they've improved things significantly. So I would say, yes, it's a value brand, but we're only going to use it 20 days a year. I don't know what lake in Michigan you're on, but I think you're going to be fine. Just know there's going to be little ticky-tacky things. And I made the video walk around on, let's see here. Where is it? The Tahoe deck boat. So this is a review of a value brand. And you watch that. It's not the Bentley, but it's just, I mentioned some things that will be applicable to any value brand. There's just going to be little ticky-tacky things that break down, that you're like, oh, that rattles a little more than I want. Oh, I've got to adjust it a little more often than I would like in the first couple of years of the boat's life. That's what the type of thing. But you're going to get a Suzuki, you're going to get a Mercury, you're going to get a Yamaha on that thing. And you say right there, Mercury 150 4-stroke. That's the same thing that's on the Barletta or the Bennington or the Manitou or not Manitou. But that's the same motor that you're going to get on a $200,000 boat. So that would be my suggestions there. Wayne, anything that you would add to that conversation?
I think I had two thoughts. One of them is the fact that if you buy from another state, I know every state is different with regards to registering a trailer, and some some states require you to register your outboard motors, which I didn't realize. So, like here in Maryland, we have to register our trailer and our boats, but not our outboards. And other states have to register outboards and not trailers. And if you're buying out of state, you want to make sure that you've got all of the necessary paperwork you need to register it in the state that you're going to register it. And then also warranty work, I would imagine, because if you're buying a new boat, chances are there might be something that doesn't quite work right, or something comes a little bit loose or whatever. And it's very common with newer boats for that stuff to happen. And being able to just take it back easily to have that stuff done under warranty where it doesn't cost you anything. Because if you buy out of state, you're taking it somewhere else, you're going to have to pay for those, which would otherwise be free repairs.
Yeah, exactly right. I've even had clients tell me that, hey, the closest dealer was 2 hours away, and that was problematic. And in those situations, I recommend, hey, brand is only so important. Dealer is as important, if not more important in some situations. And when you live out of the area, it's a second home, the boat's sitting there by its lonesome. A local dealer is a phone call away, and not my parents. my dad has hopped in the truck and driven 6 hours from Omaha, Nebraska to Lake of the Ozarks, Missouri. And because there had to be something done at the house, the lift was down or the boat wasn't running and we were going to be there in a week. That's just the reality of that situation. It's awesome, but having a local dealer, my father-in-law has a great local dealer, Travis Marine in Knoxville, Tennessee. He bought a nice Cobalt R5 25-foot Cobalt, brand new. He's got a great dealer. He picks up the phone and says, "Hey, listen, Matt, I need you to," Matt at Travis Marine, he's the owner of the Suns owner. And he's like, "I need this done." Boom, it's done. And he doesn't have to worry about it. So I think that's valuable there for you. Small one. Yeah. And then Sheree, also back to the brand, if you're on a small 1,500 acre lake, yes, there's going to be some little things, but it's not like you're getting bashed around on a big, Lake Erie or Lake of the Ozarks or Havasu or something like that. You're going to be able to have a great time. But I would encourage a local dealer. I think that would really be valuable in your situation. So, all right, let's go to JJ. JJ says, "I'm going tomorrow morning to look at a 74 Starcraft 3.0 Mercruiser. Always had outboards, 19 foot. Should I be wary?" Well, here's what I would say. Watch this video. Let's see if I can find it. I've got over 350 videos on the channel now, so I can't just scroll through and find them anymore. I've got to.
While you're pulling up that video, I wanted to interject something.
Yeah, go ahead.
My big boat is an inboard outboard, the one that I have now, and it's my first inboard outboard. And I was under the same mentality that a lot of people are who've worked on car engines for many years, thinking to myself, "Oh, it's basically a car engine, so I know how all that stuff works." But what's interesting whenever it's an inboard outboard boat is that the components that are the most challenging, that wear regularly, that need the most maintenance and checking, are all of the ancillary things bolted on to that car engine. So a lot of times the car engine itself is fine and very reliable, but it's those risers where the water runs through, and whether it's freshwater cooled or got a closed cooling system, impellers and all these other things that are attached to the inboard outboards that sometimes can make them very challenging. And that's where I've had a lot of learning curve with my boat. And with some of these, engine access has a lot to do with it as well. I've seen some inboard outboard boats where you can easily get in there to do things and to check stuff, and other ones that are much more challenging. Mine is extremely challenging. And I know there's a lot of people who've had inboard outboards and they say, "I'm never going to have another inboard outboard again." But also there's plenty of them running around, and a lot of them are reasonably priced and available because there's a lot of people who are just kind of done with an inboard outboard. And your video that you have here is much. Yeah.
The question I would have for JJ, are you in saltwater or freshwater? Wayne, I think you're exactly right. That one point that you started with is critical to how I would answer, for sure. And you're right. It's the motor. Yeah, it's a GM block, but how it's marinized, and it's a 74, are you going to be able to find the parts that you need that are going to be Mercruiser specific? Those all come into play. And I would watch this video, tips for avoiding headaches buying older boats. Is the transom. Wayne, you did a video on fixing a transom on was it your aluminum boat?
Yeah, it was my 12-foot boat. And I also did a video with my 19-foot boat because it had a bad transom, and I was just kind of patching it together to hold it through one more season.
Yeah. So I've got mine right here. Get you the big screwdriver, and you're going to do two things with this. One, you're going to tap the hole everywhere that there's a through hull fitting, everywhere on the back, all the way around the assembly on the lower unit, up and down the side of the hull, anywhere there's something going through the boat. And really on a 74, and that may be the Starcraft, may be an aluminum,
Ooh.
I don't know in 74 if they were all aluminum or not, but either way, aluminum can let water in as well. You're checking for, maybe you're trying to undo something to kind of poke in there with your screwdriver, and then also crack that nut on the lower unit. It's going to be down on the bullet. Crack that a little bit, let a little of that lower unit fluid seep out. Make sure it's not milkshaky. Make sure it's good. Make sure there's no metal shavings in there. That would be something that I would do as well. And no, put some money aside. There's going to be something. I don't know what it is, but there's going to be some repair that comes up in the first 12 months that you're just not going to be able to identify. Doesn't mean it's a bad boat. Just means be ready for it, because something's going to happen at a boat that age.
And he
Did
says
you
it is
find that with your
aluminum.
Four Winds?
He says it's aluminum in his.
It's okay. Okay.
down here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I didn't scroll down enough to see that. Yeah. Okay. So it's aluminum. So you've got to, but you still have to check that transom. And I don't know. How do you check a aluminum transom for, other than like poking into the wood to see if it's solid? I would imagine there may be a dead sound that would be similar, but JJ, let me look into that, and I'll see if I can find a better answer for you on that.
Yeah, and also
So,
with an
go ahead.
import outboard, you've got your things like the bellows and stuff, and that's one of the things that is interesting about an inboard outboard is that if you have an outboard motor and something goes wrong with that motor, unless it's falling off the back of the boat or taking the back of the boat off, that motor, everything can go wrong and you're still going to be floating. And with an inboard outboard, there's this hole that's below the water line where your drive goes out. And granted, the chances of those things failing is very, very slim. And usually, if you're properly maintaining those things and checking them and running your boat, getting them serviced every few years, it's not an issue. But you still have a hole below the water line with an inboard outboard. So,
Okay, so that he says transom has supposedly been redone recently. JJ, another thing I mentioned in the tips for buying older boats is trust but verify. Hey, do you have those receipts? Who did the work? Was it, Billy Bob down the road that did the work, or was it Bob's Marine shop that certified technicians? What parts did they do? What did they actually replace, and what did they reuse? Those kind of things are going to be important. Check the floors, all of that, kind of bounce up and down on the floors. You'll also, I would get compression checked on an engine that age, a 3.0. Those things were really, really solid engines. They run kind of rough and they're off kilter a little bit because of the way they're built, but getting that compression done, I think, would be valuable as well. And then ultra important, take that before you hand over your cash, get that boat out in the water and run it for at least 20 minutes. In the toolkit, we've got if you haven't got this, JJ, the Boat Buyer's Toolkit, there's a whole page on how to demo a boat, the demo checklist. It's actually 2 pages long, that will help you identify anything that may not be noticeable until you're under a load on the water. Is something leaking? It's an aluminum boat. Are the rivets, are the welds, anything cracking or leaking there? And I think that will all be helpful for you as well. And then I've also have aluminum, I've got a boat on how to inspect an aluminum fishing boat. I don't know whether that Starcraft is officially a fishing boat, but I go through a few more things talking about welds and rivets and, water seeping in. Probably letting a little bit of water in at this point, but just make sure it's reasonable for you and the way you're going to use it. So, Brian, had people sink an older wake boat at a local lake this weekend. Luckily, no one was injured. Remember to go. Yeah. So especially the wake boats, remember, and I've got my little toy boat here.
nice.
Remember, those wake boats don't have trim, so they have to go through the water like this. And if they're ballasted down, they're even sunk further. Versus your stern drive or your outboard, you can actually get that trim up and get the nose high. And if you pull back the throttle, what happens? Nose sinks down, can dive right in. Glad nobody was injured. It's why we put together the best boat captain on the water and try to help people with that kind of thing. So, all right. Seen a lot of used boats, Lake Northern Idaho. Many are metal pontoon boats, probably middle range, Bayliner trophy boats. You really got to be on your game there. Yeah. I was at the Lake of the Ozarks last weekend with my family, and I ran my brother's like, he always drives the boat. And I don't usually drink a whole lot. And I was like, I won't drink today. So I want to run your boat. That's why. He's like, that's great. I could have some beers and you could drive us home at night. And we were in a 36-footer, and man, it was nice and smooth. But I saw 24-footers going by that easily could have swamped it, easily could have nosedived. Pontoons that with the front end was just bashed in because they didn't know how to take those wakes. And there's so many. The boats are getting bigger. The wake boats are getting ballasted up, although they're putting laws in different places. All of those things make knowing how to operate your boat that much more important. Taking the safe boating class, doing the best boat captain, getting trained even in person, all that stuff is important. So, what do you see up there in the Chesapeake as far as boat handling skills, boating skills overall?
What's interesting, because this area, and you don't realize how different it is in different areas until you know. And in this area, like, we see very, very few pontoon boats. And a lot of times that's because out on the bay, the water can be pretty rough and the winds can be kind of challenging. So there's a lot of sailboats that go out in the bay, but not a lot of pontoons because I guess historically some of them have had a chance of, flipping. I never seen it, but they're just not very popular around here. And the people who do have them stay on the rivers, and our rivers also are really, it's funny, I'm on the Magathie River, and our rivers are not really rivers. They're just arms of the estuary, really. Because there's many times whenever I'm making a video or if my wife and I are just going out and having lunch, I don't even have to drop an anchor. Like, if it's not windy, I can literally go out there, shut my boat off in the middle of the river, and I'll not move very far at all
Really?
when I go to
Interesting.
restart my boat.
The tides will have more impact on you than the actual current of the river?
Yeah, yeah, and,
Wow.
and the bay is the same way. We were out last weekend, and we tied off with a friend of ours' boat, and we literally just drifted for hours, and we probably only drifted, a few hundred yards. I mean, it wasn't much at all. Um, but the bay, everybody says, as a rule of thumb in the Chesapeake Bay, you wanna have a 24-foot boat minimum.
Okay.
Now, I've taken my 19-foot boat from here to Annapolis, but I had to pick my day very carefully.
Yep. Look at the weather forecast, the current weather, the buoy, what the buoys are doing,
Yeah,
all
everything.
that.
And, and checking, apps and stuff like that to see, wave height and everything. And there are times where I've taken it down there and coming back has been a little bit of a scarier ride. Nothing too dangerous, but, even on a good day, it can be kind of rough out there. Our bigger boat's 23.5 feet, and it's kind of just big enough that it's okay out there in the bay a lot of times. Now, granted,
Yeah.
like any body of water, it can be glass, and you could be out there in a kayak just fine. But whenever it gets its normalness, 24 foot, 25, 26-foot boats are like ideal for the bay.
You get a little more grace if weather does come up.
Yes.
You don't get too nervous when the bigger you are. Boater Tom, yeah, I would agree. Back to Cherie's comment or question about the single Morse component is the dealer, and I would agree. It's so important, especially when you're buying new. Having that relationship there, they have a shakedown period. I mean, they've got a word for it in the boating industry that the first couple times is the shakedown period, where you expect things to break or need to be adjusted or need to be something. Great dealers will do that for you. They'll take the boat out and run it for an hour before you even take possession of it. Try to find as many of those things as possible. Some of those things you won't notice until it's been rattled around for 4 or 5 hours and then now it needs to be tightened. Now it needs to be adjusted or something. So Boater Tom, I would agree with that as well. And Brian, I think this is a comment for Cherie as well. Brian bought a sun tracker up at his where he boats on the lake in West Virginia. I wouldn't call it a small lake, but definitely not a huge one. The Tracker Marine, you've got the Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's, and Tracker itself has a big network of dealers. So that has been his experience, and I know Brian has been using his boat and loving his boat. So I've seen pictures of him and his grandson out on the first couple of trips, and so I know that pontoon's getting used. Day Trader next door, hello from Canada, looking for a towable cabin cruiser, 80s, 90s with the Merc. Makes models to avoid, mainly Durrell, Thundercraft, Bayliner around here. So when it comes to that style of boat, the Bayliners in the 80s and 90s, there was I've got to do a little bit more searching on the specifics, but I want to say like the mid 90s, some of those boats were built in a different factory up in Seattle where Meridian is made, and some of those boats people love and they're very sought after even still, just because they were very roomy, and they were pretty well built boats. In my opinion, you can't go wrong with the Sea Ray when you're talking about that cruiser style. They built, in my opinion, the best 24 to 34 foot cruiser for most of the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. So few builders build enough of them to get good at it, in my opinion, that I think Sea Ray is a great way to go. Now, whether you can find them up there in Canada is another story. I don't know what the exchange rate is and what the importing looks like now, but I don't know anything about Thundercraft. I'm not familiar with them. Doral, I know the name, but I've never inspected them. Regal, I don't even know if Regal was building cruisers in those years, though. But what I would do is I would watch this video, if you haven't, Day Trader, is the used cruisers, 24 to 50 foot express cruiser, how to buy one. It's a 36-minute long video, so it's a long one, but I go into a lot of the things that you need to think about. And this is what I tell people all the time when they're looking at older boats. The brand doesn't matter that much. At that point, the boat's 20, even after 10 years, 10, 20, 30 years, if it was going to break, it's broken, or it's going to show itself that it's not built up to your standard. If you inspect them properly, you inspect that engine, you inspect on a 25 foot, the air conditioning, the head, the plumbing to the head, all that's kind of stuff. Inspecting the boat, because it's more about how well it's been taken care of than what the brand is at that point, in my opinion. Wayne, you bought your Four Winds pre-owned, right?
Yep.
So I know we're talking cruisers here, but anything that you found during that shopping process that you're like, oh, I didn't think about that until.
Oh, there were tons of things. I could write a book.
Watch my channel. I talk about a couple of them.
That's right. And the mistake I made was we bought, well, it hasn't gotten much better, but we bought whenever everything was just the worst for buying a boat. We bought in August, and everything that was going for sale that floated and ran was sold faster than you could get anybody to come and take a look at the boat. And my wife and I missed out on several of them that were close by, because by the time I called or texted the person, they were like, somebody's here to buy the boat. And that person would buy it and take it away. So we had to kind of jump, and I had to go with my gut for certain things that I should have had checked out and should have investigated much more thoroughly. But when you're talking about buying a boat from the late 80s and 90s. I couldn't agree with what you said more. And I had a feeling we were on the same page there, because when a boat is that old, if it's, let's just say, and a lot of people trash Bayliners, and let's say it's the worst Bayliner that was ever made, if that boat is still around and for sale and in working order, it's because all of its shortcomings have been replaced and repaired. And it's now probably a very good boat. It's sort of like some people are afraid to buy a used car that's had multiple things repaired on the engine, and other people look at it and go, oh, well, it's all had all this work done, so it should be fine now. And that's the way it is with older boats, because if it's still a serviceable boat and, the floors aren't squishy and it doesn't fail any of the really important tests.
Yeah, and you use a checklist or
Yep.
something, watch the videos on Wayne's
Pointing at
channel
the
and my
screen,
channel.
yeah.
If you inspect it, you'll find it if it's
Yep.
problematic, and then walk away. I think you're right on. We've got comments stacking up here, so we're gonna try to get through these a little bit quicker. Let's see. Tom Kilgore, this week I get test drive my Barletta. Price on the sticker is discounted 20. Given that, can I negotiate? Yeah. I mean, Tom, you can always negotiate. I talk about it in the First Time Boat Buyer Academy, the Magic Money Saving Method, the questioning process that I was a salesperson. This was the one that frustrated me the most. And I was a pretty professional salesperson and took trainings and took it for real. There are some people that, just kind of fly by the seat of their pants, and their negotiating skills are, come on in if you're coming in. All right. We got a special guest here real quick.
Ooh.
Hello.
All right. She's going to camp tomorrow morning. So, all right. Good night, baby. I love you. I'll see you in the morning. She's got her sister's at sleepaway camp. We dropped her off today. That one isn't quite old enough for sleepaway, so she's just going to the day camp this week. So,
Nice.
But yeah, absolutely, Tom. You can negotiate. Now, you're all the way down the line, so it's pretty late to start negotiating. But why not? So here's the question. I'm going to give you a freebie on this one. Everybody watching. We've got almost 50 people on the live, so we're hitting record numbers here with Wayne the Boat Guy on with us. Here's the process that you use when you're negotiating a boat. JJ, you can use this as well. I saw your comment about what they were asking for the boat. It is this is the full thing. When they tell you the price, you're like, oh man, let them know that's way more than I thought it was going to be. I don't care what you think. I sold a 40-foot Sea Ray Sundancer to this guy that was an SVP of Bank of America, and he negotiated. That's what his job was at a very, very high level. Making $500,000 a year or so. Way better negotiator than I was. And I was out of my league in this. And every time I said a price, he's like, oh, Matt, you're killing me. It didn't matter what I said. I was like, this soda is 50 cents. He'd be like, Matt, you're killing me here. And just, hey, the price is too high no matter what it is. And then, you go through again, you say, oh man, can you do any better? And they'll usually, a salesperson will say, oh, they don't want to lose the sale. Even in this environment, they're like, hey, I've got 5 other people that are willing to buy this boat, but it may be another salesperson that gets it before me. And I'd rather get bird in the hand kind of thing than maybe miss out on the commission on this boat. So can you do any better? Keep going. You go through the demo and you're like, oh, I maybe I should have got the 200. And again, you're late in the game. You probably ordered this boat. It's probably exactly how you want it. But the earlier you can do this, the better. And you're like, man, maybe I should have got the 200. Oh, maybe I would have liked this addition, or maybe we should have done this. And then you just ask that question again. Can you do any better? It's so nice and easy. And you're not saying yes, you're not saying no. You're just asking, can you do any better? And that salesperson is going to you're going to see it on their face. As soon as you ask it, they're like, oh crap. And that would be what I do is, when you're on the demo, before you get on the demo, just sit down and say, man, you've increased the price on me from when I started shopping. There's surcharges. There's this, to that. Can you guys work with me? Can you do any better? and then just silence, see what they say. Again, you're late in the game, Tom, but you might be able to just get a little something extra. And then again, in my program, the First Time Boat Buyer Academy, there's 6 other negotiation techniques you can use when buying a new boat from a dealer. Listen, they're a dealer. They've got margin in everything. They've got a lot of margin in service. If they've got storage, there's a ton of margin in storage. If there's any extra capacity in their storage at all, that's free to them. They've got margin in gear and fuel. They've got margin in upgrades. So you can get $1,000 worth of value, but it only costs them $650. So use those to your advantage as well. And, maybe get a life jacket or some dock lines or something thrown in. And that may be helpful. So, Wayne, are you a negotiator? Do you have anything to add there?
I actually am horrible at it. I know what I should do, but I buy all with heart. And,
yeah,
a person says to me, "Hey, this is 10 grand." And I'm like, "That's great, man. Here you go." And I will drive home going, I probably could have gotten that for $3,000 less had I just even said, but I am terrible at it and I know it. And, but I'm okay with it because, ultimately really what it matters is it matters about getting a price point where you feel comfortable. And a lot of us, we feel comfortable whenever we feel like we've gotten some kind of deal. They're asking 12,000.
Yep.
I got it for 10 and they threw in some PFDs and then you're happier and you're comfortable with it. And
there's also something we talked about how important the dealer is. There were times when I had people just beat me up on price and it was the end of the season. It was after Labor Day. They got a smoking deal. But my general manager remembered them. And when they came back in for service, we took great care of them, but they didn't get a discount on anything. They didn't get a free service ride. They didn't get a whatever. So you do want to balance. I talk about this in the First Time Boat Buyer Academy as well, that you get the best deal. I hate overpaying for things. I like the negotiation. I like the back and forth of it all. My wife is terrified of it. And she I got to leave the room when you're doing this crap. But you also, the relationship is important. So that's why I like can you do any better? Because you keep that relationship intact. You're not playing too hardball to save an extra couple $100.
Yep.
So hopefully that helps you, Tom. Let me know if you saved some money. And if you did, just split it with me. We'll be good. We'll be good there. All right. So JJ Transom. All right. We got you. All right, guys. We'll get to everybody here. We're at 45 minutes. There we go. We got another special guest. Who is that?
This is Zoe. There's fireworks going off outside. She doesn't like fireworks.
William. Yes, there's absolutely, when you're trailering long distances, there's a few extra things that you want to do. One, check your tires. Make sure your bearings are greased good. And when I say check your tires, it's not just air pressure. Check for dry rot. Check the tread. Check the age of the tires. Trailer tires, after I think it's 5 years, should be replaced because rubber deteriorates, especially if they're left out in the sun. And if you're going on a 600-mile journey, especially if it's a single axle trailer, you blow a tire going 75 down the interstate, it's not going to be a pleasant experience. I had it happen when I was a kid. It happened to us on our single axle Dilly trailer with our 16-foot Larson Tri-Haul, and we blew it going down the interstate. And my dad had a heavy foot, and I remember being terrified. And then he's got a van full of kids, that were, I don't know, we were probably 10, 7, and 5 or something like that. What do? You're on the side of an interstate, and now you got a trailer broke down. You've got a van full of kids and a wife, and it's all packed up with your crap. So check those things beforehand. If you need new tires, replace them. The bearings as well. Check your straps, your bow strap. Make sure it's hooked up right. Make sure you've got your transom straps on nice and tight. Go 50 miles. Check them again. If it's come loose, and what I do sometimes is I might even do a quick brake check when we're in the parking lot. is I'll go a little bit, slam on the brakes hard to make sure that boat is tied up against that bow rail. Get my little boat out. So you sit on the trailer like this. You want that eye to be under the bow rail. So it's pulling like this. It's pulling down here. And now you got a point of contact here, nice snug on that bow rail. And you got 2 straps down on the transom, and you're nice and snug. Loading of the boat. If you're going to load anything in the boat, make sure you load it over the axles, and then make sure you check your tongue weight. If you're not used to pulling that boat a bunch, make sure that your tongue weight is set properly for the where your hitch level is. Make sure that your boat trailer is level. You don't want it down or up. You can check the fender wells. You just kind of check that angle so you got the right drop on your hitch or the right lift on your hitch, whichever it needs to be. We talk about this all in Trailer Like a Pro, and I go through all of this, but especially when you're going long distances, check all that. And then make sure if you have things in the boat, do you put a cover on or do you tow without the cover? My preference, I'm going to tow without the cover a lot of times. I'm going to make sure my windshield is locked down so that the wind doesn't catch it and smash my glass all over the place, ruining my vacation. And I'm going to take my seats out. I'm going to take the handheld VHF radio walkie out. I'm going to take the cushions out that might blow. Anything that could catch air, even if it seems like it'll ride, it won't. Over a certain distance, it'll rattle enough to catch air and it'll be gone. If you do trailer with the cover on, make sure it's a trailerable cover. And I also like to, they make this tape. It's the shrink wrap tape, that white shrink wrap tape. I like to tape the leading edge. If I'm gonna pull with the cover, I like to tape the leading edge on the hull so that at least there's no air catching up and catching my cover and gonna potentially blow it off or fray it out or something like that. Just makes it a little bit easier. Your boat's in a marina, isn't it? So you don't do any trailer in any distance. So William, hopefully that's helpful for you. Again, Trailer Like a Pro. If you want to check that out, it's a good video. We talk about loading the boat. We talk about pulling the boat, all that kind of stuff. Let's see, 50 offering less naturally. So JJ, hopefully you got some value out of my negotiation ramble. 20% off seems better than most are getting right now. No harm in trying though. Yeah. And here's the benefit. As a boat salesperson, once you hit 4th of July, you're on the downward slide. Dealers are monitoring their inventory level and saying, okay, when it hits Labor Day, I want to be at 20-30% of my inventory level. I want to have a few boats left over for those people that are going to buy late in the season. And I know my 2023s are going to start coming in mid to late August. Matter of fact, I was at Bass Pro Shop the other day. All of their new boats were 2023s. That's early. Most time they come in August, mid-August or so from most manufacturers. So,
did they have good inventory?
What's that?
Did they have good inventory when you were there?
No, they didn't. They had, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 7 boats. No used inventory. And they typically 2018, 2019, this time of year, they usually had about 20 boats in there. Right. So, a little bit less than 50%.
Yeah. We're still not bouncing back yet.
Yeah. And I'm hearing that some Canadian dealers are starting to stack up inventory. There's a handful of dealers, a handful of segments that have kind of slowed down faster. Pontoons are not slowing down yet. Bow riders, center consoles, for the most part, aren't slowing down too much. The aluminum stuff, I think fishing boats are starting to, and again, Canada. Brock, welcome. Brock, I will, hopefully your fishing season is done because you will be a guest coming up soon if you want to. Brock has been, I think, on every single live that we've done since we started this. So
nice.
Brock tows his bass boat all over the place to tournaments and stuff. Best thing is to make sure your bearings have the proper amount of grease, tires are inflated, carry a spare. Oh, great one. That is a great tip to have that spare. It makes, when that blowout, if it does happen, it makes it less devastating. So your kids aren't stuck in the van. I don't think we had a spare, if I remember right. And make sure your spare is pumped up and in good condition as well.
Yeah.
So all of that matters. Let's see. Dason Vacuums. How do you put a boat on its trim? Is it necessary to put a boat on its trim? Okay, so I'm going to assume you're talking about trimming the engine, not trim tabs. They're different things. They do somewhat different things, but it's not necessary. You can drive your boat forever and never touch the trim button. The ride will be rougher. You'll burn more fuel. You're more likely to take a wave over the bow, and your guests are more likely not to come back with you. If you know how to use your trim properly, it can make everything better. And here, Dason Vacuums, here's what happens. My high-tech model here. When you have your motor in the all the way down position, it kind of angles just slightly so that it gets you up on top of the water. You're going to start your bow rise, and then you get up on plane. Now you're at this sort of an angle. As your motor trims back, the bow can slightly come up. What that does is the lifting strakes work better, so it comes up out of the water a little bit more. As you're hitting big waves, you're glancing over them nice and soft versus pounding into them like that. Because you have less of your boat in the water and your lifting strakes are working properly, there's less drag, you're burning less fuel. So all of those things are why when I'm running a boat, and when I was at the Lake of the Ozarks running my brother's Envision, I was on the trim a lot because as we 50-footer cruise by and put out these big 3-foot rollers, and my kids were sitting up in the front, his kids were sitting up in the front having a great time. I wanted to make sure that we just softly went over them and didn't, pound too much. So you've got to, I would say it's an art as much as it is a science. Like the science is that's what it does, but the art is using just enough and then pulling it back down. It's going to adjust by the weight and everything. Do you use trim quite a bit in your boats?
I do when it's working. Right now, mine is completely not working, so it's in the all the way down position. So we've been adjusting because of that, and I'm actually ordered some new relays because I'm hoping that changing out my relays one more time fixes it and gets me through the season before I start rebuilding stuff. So,
Good deal. JJ, thanks for subscribing. Yeah, check out those videos. There's 350 of them or more on the channel now. So there'll be something that will be valuable. Just binge watching before you go check that Starcraft out. Bengal, welcome from Jersey City. Glad to have you. Just realized Matt's toy boat looks like a Ninja Turtle character. I was trying to buy one on Amazon, and then I remembered my daughters had one for their bath toy. So this is their bath toy from when they were little girls. You saw that's my youngest right there. So she hasn't used this in the bathtub for quite some time.
you need to maybe do a wrap on that boat. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
get a
Fancy
nice
it up a
final
little
wrap.
bit.
Yeah.
Maybe I can get it logoed or something. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. Hux, welcome. Charlie was Hux 2012. Charlie was our first guest. He test drove this system that we're using. So how do you prevent getting weeds sucked in? Overheating happened twice. Loading the boat, someone jumped. I don't know. Your intake, Charlie's got a Yamaha jet boat, and your intake is about right here. Where you're loading, if there's weeds in that area, I don't, what? Let me do some research on that, because I don't have an answer. We don't have weeds in my area. Our lakes don't have that issue that you guys do up there in Minnesota, Charlie. But let me do some research and let me see if I can find a better answer for you than just, I don't know, and see if we can't get you on the right track. Check if you're a member of the Yamaha owners group on Facebook. That might be a good question for that group, because I know those Yamaha boats are popular in the upper Midwest where the weeds are a bigger issue, and see if maybe they have an answer as well. So Charlie, this is like the third time you've asked a question that I've had a crappy answer for, or no answer at all. So,
He's trying to stump you.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Let's see. Evening, Captain Preston Yarber. Welcome. I asked about aluminum bay boats a couple of weeks ago. What's your thought on the Blue Wave? Blue Wave, they're a good private company, family owned. They've got the Blue Wave center consoles and the Silver Wave pontoons that I want to say they're out of Oklahoma, maybe. But they're a good, I would put them probably in the mid-tier category, but a nice boat, a good company. And then again, like we've talked about multiple times, the dealer. Who's the dealer that you're buying from? If you're buying new, if you're buying pre-owned, just make sure you inspect it. Make sure it's been well taken care of. Make sure all the pumps and the the engine it's probably got a Yamaha on it. Make sure all that stuff is good. But as far as a brand, they're a good mid-tier brand is what I can share. You have any experience with Blue Waves up there? They're not super common up that way, I don't think.
I don't think I've ever seen one.
Okay. I want to convert a McGregor 65 pilot house from a sailboat to a power cruiser. Lux up the interior, clear deck for lounging, lots of space, fast enough, crazy. Richard, yes, you're crazy. I don't know. I don't know anything about doing that. Stuff is way over my head. I like the boats that are built and ready to go. I've never done any project work. Wayne, I know you have. What do you have?
Well, yeah, what I was going to say is that there's a lot of old sailboats around us that are for sale, and sometimes they are super cheap. And I've heard several times where people have tried to do this kind of thing, and it comes down to, and once again, forgive me because I only know very little about this, but it comes down to the hull design. And the hull designs for the sailboats, primarily because of the keel and the way the hulls are, is for, sailing. And so, you're going along at an angle like that. And if you try to make it a power cruiser, sometimes there's a lot of problems with them tracking properly because the whole design of motorboats is much different.
Interesting. So this is, let's see here. So this is the McGregor 1990 65 McGregor. I that looks like it's going to have a pretty significant keel. Yeah, look at how big that keel is. I don't have any idea. I've never even considered that. So one more offer on the on the value of this one. But I said in the beginning I wasn't a sailboat guy, so I get an out on that one. All right, let's see here. Out where I am, taking Washington State Ferry. I'm going to point this out, but never ever try to beat a ferry before it crosses your path. Yes, in anytime there's a commercial vessel and a ferry. I was running in Charleston. I'm sure you guys see a lot of stuff up there.
Yep.
In your area, Wayne. If you see a commercial vessel, give them plenty of space. One, they might not even be able to see you, depending on how big the ferry is. If they're a big, container ship, their pilot house is way up. It may be on the back of the boat. They don't have a view like you do. Stay the hell out of their way. There's no reason to. And that's a great reminder, R&R. Thank you for that. What do you do when you see a big commercial vessel running, or even a smaller commercial, a sea tow or Boat US towing a boat?
Yeah, we give them plenty of space, and there is a commercial shipping that goes up and down the bay, and a lot of us recreational boaters, we're going across the bay. And so a lot of times what we'll do is, as we're coming up to the channel, you kind of eyeball and see which way things are going. And it's not like there's so much traffic that you have to worry about it. But whenever I see a ship, I usually then change my course so that way I'm crossing behind him and he can see that I am going to be crossing behind him. So I kind of come straight at him and then, go towards the back a little bit. So that way he knows I'm not trying to play around or cut in front of him, because people do that once in a while. And those big ships move a lot faster than you think. And all of a sudden you're there. And
and you do not want to be there.
Yeah.
You do not want to be there. A tip from my RV towing Oh, that's a good one, Brian.
Nice.
The infrared thermometer. So every time you stop for a pee break or a gas stop, just shoot your tires. What are they doing on temp? Brian, I'd be interested to know what a reasonable temp is for them. Shoot them before you get started, see what that temp is. But Brian, if you know from when you're towing your RV, 100, 120, I'm sure it depends on the temperature outside, but where's sort of that danger zone of, oh crap, and shoot the hubs, not just the tires themselves, but shoot the hubs too. That awesome tip, Brian. Thank you so much. Captain Matt, you helped with my new boat purchase. Thanks. Another boater hit my new toy. Any special consideration to repair the fiberglass? I'll be having it done by a professional. Anything to look for? Just what I would do, Joseph. I that sucks that happened. First of all, make sure that they are matching the fiberglass colors. And if you're going back to the dealer, just make sure it's somebody that does a decent amount of fiberglass work. And that's the most I can tell you. If you watch, I don't know, Wayne, if you know this guy, Andy at Boat Works Today. Is that what it is?
Everybody knows who Andy is. Yep.
Boat Works Today. This guy is a fantastic fiberglass guy. I don't know anything about doing that type of work. But if you check out his channel, he's been doing it for a long time. He's got a ton of great videos, and he might have some tips for you. But just before you hire it and say, here's my boat, just make sure that they're a seasoned fiberglass repair person. Because
Absolutely.
I've seen Steve, the guy that did the fiberglass work at my dealership, he was meticulous and he did some great jobs, some major projects. Then I've seen some other people's work that are like, oh, I can do fiberglass work. And then you see it and you're like, not really that good though. So just make sure that they're experienced, especially if it's a colored hull, where matching the gel coat color, it's brand new. So there shouldn't be assuming it was brand new, the more faded, the older the gel coat is, and the more faded, the harder it is to match, because the color comes from the manufacturer, whatever the fancy color name is. But if it's been faded, it's tough to get that fading color to match exactly right. But the better guys can do a really, really, really good job. Let's see. You're welcome, Dyson. Maybe it's Dyson vacuums. Too many lakes with milfoil problems. Yeah. We're very fortunate that our lakes are pretty clean here. It's also, I did a video on this, on the invasive species. Make sure, guys, when you're unloading you're loading your boats and you're heading out, make sure you pull that drain plug. Make sure you pull any of the weeds and stuff off your trailer. Don't just head out. Get all that stuff off, because the hydrilla and all of those invasive species, the mussels that are showing up all over the place. Rinse your trailer if you need to. Pull all the leafy stuff off, and so you don't dunk it into the next place you go, and now it starts up there. It's a major problem, and I did a video on it a year ago. Do you guys have anything up there in your area, Wayne?
Oh yeah. Matter of fact, we've got so many invasive species, and one of the really interesting stories with that is Chesapeake Bay is known for blue crabs, and that's sort of our thing. And it's the Maryland thing is the blue crabs, and blue crabs are now an invasive species over in Europe. So off the coast of, I think, like Spain and Portugal, crabs apparently have somehow gotten into the bilges of some of these ships, and whenever I guess they're letting out water ballast.
Yeah, they're ballast. Yeah, interesting.
Crabs have now, and they're considering them an invasive species over there, and it's causing problems. So it's one of those things where you always think about the invasive species in your area, but sometimes your area is invading other areas.
Yep. And if you're a wakeboarder, empty that ballast while you're at the ramp. not on the ramp. Pull away to the staging area. Don't do it on the ramp, but make sure you pump that out, or just do it in the water. If you're a fisherman, pump your live wells out and your bait wells out while you're on the water or while you're in the ramp area. Richard, I think that was you that asked the question about the blue waves. Brock's friend down in Charleston has one. Yeah, a little bit wetter than the Sea Fox, the Sportman, the Key West, and a little bit rougher. Goes to the design of the hole, the bottom, and the dead rise, and the way they do that. But thank you for sharing that, Brock. Appreciate it. My lake has a lot of weeds and grass. 200 Merc plugged. Alarm goes off. Neutral for a minute. Yeah, Ray. Hux has a jet boat, and it actually has a big intake grate on it that it actually sucks it up and in. And they've got these clean out ports, but once they get in there, it's a pain to clean them out, and you got to pull them and get your hands in there. But we talk about in the free boater boot camp, we exactly what you say there, Ray, is if you hear that alarm, check your temperature gauge. Is it going up? It's over 120 or whatever it is for your boat. Let's throw that lower unit up and check, see if we got weeds there. And it's likely. I've even sucked up a plastic grocery bag on the water, an ice bag, and it's just sucked into the outside of your gear case. No water. Bad news if you don't recognize it and you don't stop and address it. Let's see here. We're over an hour, Wayne. Are you still good on time?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah.
Okay, good. So we'll keep going here. Let's see here. Good evening, Captain. Joining you for the first time. Loving the topic. Be tuning in regularly. Yeah, Bob, check out the videos. Wayne's got a ton of great videos on his channel as well. And how many videos you up to now, Wayne?
I don't know, probably 120 or something. I'm not really sure.
Wayne puts a lot more work into his videos. He's a better editor, and his videos are way more entertaining than mine are. That's for dang sure. I watched his how to tie your boat up at the dock, and he had models, and it was awesome. So
that's the first time I've ever used models, and I had been thinking about that for about 6 months because I kept on trying to figure out how can I show how to tie your lines and explain it. Because it took me forever to learn. And then whenever I started seeing what was happening, and I thought to myself, I wonder if I could build a model and would it work? And when I built the model, I was like, this works so good. I have to show the world.
I've got it. Well, it's like my little toy boat. I'm like, I need a way to explain trim, and I'll go with this. That works. All right. Typically seeing 130, 150 on mine, 180 tape a deeper look. So that's going back to the trailer tire temperature, using that thermal, what we've been getting our forehead scanned with since COVID came around, going into a restaurant, shoot that at your tire and at your hubs. And if you start getting over that 150 to 180, then, okay, maybe we've got an issue. Do we have our tires, not enough air in them? Should have checked that beforehand. Or maybe they're overinflated. Maybe you just need to slow it down a little bit. Maybe you're running really tiny. I don't recommend it, but some of the pontoon trailers have the real little wheels.
Yeah.
When you're going 70, the RPMs on that sucker they'll get hot in a hurry. Maybe you need to just slow it down a little bit. Or my dad liked to travel when we went to the Ozarks, Lake of the Ozarks from Nebraska. We left at midnight because we had a line of boats going down, and it was like, okay, no traffic, cooler weather. And it's easier on everything. And I think plus the kids were asleep. I think that's what I've learned as a dad, why I like to go at night.
Right.
Dayton, Cincinnati vacuums. Awesome. I had some Cincinnati chili mac the other day at Steak and Shake. Or Steak and Shake. I love that stuff. My wife doesn't like to go, so I had to go by myself.
Did you have to eat some Tums afterwards, or are you still good?
You do it for lunch. If you do it for lunch, you're better.
Yep.
How do I find a fiberglass boat builder to build a 60-foot Harry Pro sailboat in the Miami? Richard, I don't have any idea. You are killing me with these questions about the huge. This is why I even on my cruiser video, I talk about up to 50 foot, because I've got experience on, I've run a 58 foot's the biggest boat I've ever run. but been on some 60 footers, some 60-foot Sea Rays. But sailboats and over 60 that's getting way out of my league. So, sorry, I can't help you again, Richard, on that. Wayne the Boat Guy makes great videos. There you go. You got some fans in here. I knew you would.
Thanks, Andrew.
You should subscribe to him, Andrew Hall. Thanks for joining us, giving Wayne a little shout out. Let's see, Brian. That's about what mine runs too. Pad had a hung pad last year, 30-minute trip, 190, knew something was going on. That Brock, that's a great point. But Brock was saying he tows his boat up to 2,500 miles. Knowing your rig, knowing your boat, knowing the normal on your vessel, on your setup, on your boat, on your trailer, what your motor sounds like, what it sounds like when you're towing, what creaks and rattles are okay, which ones are problematic. Knowing that stuff, temperatures, normal operating range, all of that stuff is critical to avoiding situation. If Bo didn't religiously check his stuff, he would have had no idea. And when that, I'm assuming brake pad is what he's talking about, that brake pad was, cherry red on fire, could cause a major problem and make that trip a disaster. So knowing that stuff is critical. And if you're a boater, you don't have to be able to turn wrenches on everything, but you do have to pay attention to stuff and know if you don't do it yourself, but still know what it should be. Supermodels. Sometimes I missed all the the comments in there, and I don't get the inside jokes.
Yeah, I don't have any supermodels on my channel either.
Yeah, not in this crew. Not in this crew, unfortunately. Good evening, Chad. Welcome to the live. All right, guys, we're coming up on the end of the questions. We're at an hour 15. I am going to throw your last questions in. I'm going to do my quick little commercial here that, let's see here. Maybe if I can figure out. There we go. All right. Do my quick little commercial, then we'll come back. So, remember, if you're buying a boat, if you're shopping for a boat, get the free Boat Buyers Toolkit, free download. It's a 25-page checklist, questions to ask the dealers, a lot of great stuff in here. A companion video, cost of ownership calculator. You can get all that. I haven't announced this yet officially, but I'm going to be writing a book. So I'm taking all the information that we're sharing on the videos, and I'm going to turn it into a book. So the editor is working with me on that. And so I've got some work ahead of me to write and to get that done. Hopefully that will be out by the Fort Lauderdale Boat Show. Boaters Boot Camp. If you're a new boat owner, all of these things we're talking about, and knowing how your trailer tires work, and knowing how to check the oil, and basics of navigation, fire safety, and what to do in an emergency. It's a 3-part video series, totally free. Log into the members only area. You get to watch the videos. It's the Boater Boot Camp. You can get that at boaterbootcamp.com. If you are struggling handling your boat around the docks, tying it up, Wayne just did a great video on it, on if you're in the tidal situation. But we go deep into all of this stuff that, listen, nobody wants to watch some of these videos, but in this program, I try to explain it to you in a way that's just, this is going to help you so much. Hundreds of people have gone through it and are loving it. Matter of fact, I wanted to show this earlier, but this is Rhonda. And Rhonda bought the Best Boat Captain program when she got her Barletta pontoon. She's down in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. She bought the t-shirt, and she's just sent this to me the other day on Saturday. Your number one fed heading out on Little River Inlet in her new swag to go fishing. And she said the first time she ran that boat, the salesperson was blown away that she knew what she was doing and could actually handle her, I think, 24-foot Barletta pontoon. So we got the Best Boat Captain. We got the pontoon version, the single engine outboard. We're working on the twin, the jet boat, Charlie. That one's in the works. And the wake boat version as well. We've got Trailer Like a Pro, Tow Water Sports with Confidence. And we got some other ones that are coming out. Coastal Confident Coastal Boater is one that I'm hiring a coastal captain to go out with me and train people for the coast, because that's not my expertise. I've been a lake boater. So, all right, that is that. Back to
So,
us.
Matt, I have a quick question. So you're
Sure.
working on a book.
Yes.
Is it going to be a big, thick book like my Chapman piloting book
It's
here,
not
or
going
is
to
it
be the Chapman. I don't know how long it's going to be. But what I want to do is, hey, not everybody's on YouTube. We're almost to 400,000 views for the last 28 days on the channel, which is breaking records for me. But not everybody watches YouTube. Some people like to read. I've got that feedback. So I'm like, all right, how do I take this and share it with the boat shoppers? We've got the Boater Boot Camp. Some stuff just works better in video. But
absolutely?
I'm like, the boat buying stuff, the most recent one I could find was from 20 years ago. A guy from Boating Magazine wrote it. And I'm like, I've got all this information. Let me just put it in a different format, write it up, and we're going to give it away for free as a download. If you want to buy the book, you can. But we're about a month into it. And so far I've got my outline that I've got to write to. That's where we're at.
Gotcha.
So that will be coming, like I said, hopefully by October, the end of October at Fort Lauderdale Boat Show. We'll have it done there. But I've got to, before I say that's where we're going to launch it, I've got to make sure that it's done.
Right. That's awesome. That's awesome. And I think that'll be very useful, because I recommend people buying the Chapman book, but it really is daunting, and it covers a lot of stuff that doesn't apply to somebody who's buying their first motorboat. There's a lot of stuff in there about sailing and a lot of stuff about navigation, which is just way over my head. And the kind of stuff that you do and you focus on is what a lot of boat buyers and newer boaters like really need help with. So,
Yeah. Well, it's just a whole new world. It's, I got my pilot's license about my VFR visual flight rules. And like when I got started, I was like, I don't know anything about anything. And I wasn't even buying a plane. I was just learning how to fly them. It just, when you get introduced to a new world, there's so many things that are unknown that you have to have a resource for them. So I want to provide that for as many people as we can.
that's great.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'll let you know when it's ready. Jason Kellum, welcome. Jason's a jet boat guy as well. So sometimes with the jet boat, you can run it in reverse as fast as possible, shift to neutral, pull the lanyard simultaneously. This will sometimes flush any debris out of the jet pumps. So Jason gave us, so this is the third jet boat tip that Jason's given us, I think. The syncing of the motor and the cruise control system. There was one other thing that he gave us a couple weeks ago, and now this one. So awesome, Jason. Thank you for that. Ray used models for his video. Yes. Wayne used models for his video. Wait, when you start using supermodels in your video, you let me know.
Yeah, well, that's when I'll go real big time,
Yeah. That Lucas Blue marine grease is great stuff. Been using for 12 years without a bearing failure. Yeah. So that's if you're pumping your bearing buddies, Lucas Blue marine grease is and again, Brock trailers all over the place. He was on the live on his phone driving back from his Florida bass tournament a couple weeks ago. So that's awesome. Bob, let's see. What are your thoughts on installing zincs and trim tabs? Does it affect the drag much better when it comes to, you definitely, if you leave your boat in the water, you want to have zincs on your trim tabs. And as far as drag, minimal, the tabs themselves. So because of where they're positioned. So let's see, let me use my allergy pills here so your tab sits like this. It's going to either, depending on if it's built into the hull or if it's just added on, the zinc is going to go on top. So and you've got your hydraulic arm, your cylinders going up to the boat. So that zinc, it's rounded off. It's just like a little half a ball that sits up there. It's not going to have any effect on drag whatsoever. And if you leave your boat in the water, you want them on there. Make sure they don't get painted if you do bottom paint, and you'll be, that $50 or whatever they cost will save you from a major problem. And then check them periodically as well. Skyline Chili, there you go. I knew a guy I've been to Cincinnati to work with the guy that his name was Cincinnati Ron, and he introduced me to the chili. I think the main difference is blue marine stuff is more resistant to washing out versus the red and tacky. Yeah, every time you back it down into the water, that the thicker and goopier it is, the more likely it's to stay where it's supposed to stay, and hopefully you don't have any water intrusion, but that can happen. Still can't believe blue crab is invasive in Europe. Yeah, zebra mussels are our issue here. We do have those in my area. We just don't have the hydrilla and the plant stuff yet. Annapolis, Maryland has some cool bookstores. Also happens to be the sailing capital of the country. You should distribute your new book to the stores there. Yeah, absolutely, Andrew. It is because I do so much stuff online. My initial thought was, hey, we'll get it, give it away as a PDF. We'll do the print on Amazon, on Barnes and Noble, and do all that. I'll have to figure out how to get in like independent bookstores. But I know my editor can get me everywhere. Just be self-published. I don't have a big publishing house behind me giving me a big fat advance. It's me paying somebody to make this happen. But
That's
yeah,
okay.
I flew Cessnas, Ray.
That's for your first
I
book.
learned on it. What's that,
That's
Wayne?
just for your first book. Your next book, that's whenever you get the exam.
There we go. Yeah, Ray, I flew 172 and 182s is what I learned on. And it was just, I've got this thing that I like to learn new things. And if I haven't learned something new or been exposed to new ideas, I'm like, I go out and find something. And so, I don't know, it was 10, 15 years ago, I decided I need to learn how to fly planes. I didn't do anything with it, obviously, but I learned and I got my license and I checked out and all that. So, is there a flow gauge I could add to the output cooling line to give a quick alert? I don't know. I don't think, I haven't heard of anything like that, Hux, that is out there. But I know this has to be an issue that has been addressed in some way or another in the jet boat community. It's just, who is it? The Rotax engines have their sleeve so things don't get trapped in there and it's supposed to cut. But even then, those weeds are getting stuck, I'm guessing, even on those engines. So let me do a little bit of digging for you, Charlie, and I'll get back. Brian, thanks for joining us. All right, so we're coming up on an hour and 22 minutes. If you haven't subscribed, go check out Wayne's channel, check out his videos, subscribe. And again, just like on mine, give him a thumbs up, give him a comment. And Wayne, thank you so much for joining. I appreciate you commenting on the video and getting this relationship started. I think if you would be interested, we'd have you back here at some point and do this again.
Yeah, I'd love to, Matt. Thank you so much. It's been so nice chatting with you.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it. Everybody, thanks for joining. Go check out the toolkit. Go check out the Boater Bootcamp if you're a new boater. Any of the programs, if you need that type of assistance, money back guarantee on everything that I do. And remember, life truly is better on a boat. Take care, everybody.